Welcome to Not Suitable for Democracy. I'm your host, Nick, and today we're going to talk about the No Kings March that took place just this past weekend on October 18th, which turned out to be the largest single-day protest in American history. Can you believe that? So that is a huge accomplishment, no matter what folks are saying about it. And we're going to dive in not only about what was going on at the march, my experience at the march, but I have not one, not two, but 6 attendees who were so gracious enough to join me and actually discuss their experience at the No Kings March in New York City. So more on that in a little bit, but first, Not Suitable for Democracy is a podcast focused on the challenges facing American democracy. And each week we explore topics going on at the national level, statewide level, and sometimes even the local level, specifically like Zohran Mamdani and the mayoral election going on right now. Don't forget to subscribe to Not Suitable for Democracy on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. You can also follow along on Instagram and TikTok. They both use the same handle, so make sure to follow NSFD_pod. And for those of you who are brand new to the podcast, I produce normally 1 episode per week, but because I was sick 2 weeks ago, last week I was able to, make it up to y'all with 3 episodes. Episode 21, which focuses on holding people accountable, and we'll explore that through the government shutdown, through Attorney General of New York, Letitia James versus President Trump, and Kamala Harris on her book tour from pro-Palestinian activists. Episode 22, which dives deeper into the case regarding same-sex marriage. Now, we know that the Supreme Court is potentially looking to overturn same-sex marriage. However, based on commentary from 3 Supreme Court justices, we're making the case right here at Not Suitable for Democracy that same-sex marriage will not be overturned. Hear what we have to say, and you just may agree that marriage equality is here to stay. And lastly, check out episode 23, which focuses on the Pentagon document pushing journalists out of the Pentagon, the propagandist video with Kristi Noem being shown at the airport, and lastly, the Young Republicans text message from Telegram exposing a lot of their hatred. So more on that in episode 23. And now, let's jump into episode 24. This past weekend, I had the opportunity to attend the No Kings March right here in New York City. Now, they had events across all 5 boroughs, but I was fortunate enough to make it to the one in Manhattan, which was hosted right in Times Square. So, such an iconic landmark. So, just being there just made it all the more surreal. From the minute you stepped out of the subway, it was shoulder to shoulder with, attendees just so excited to just be a part of something. And it just made it all the more special, especially when seeing so many different ages, backgrounds, levels of enthusiasm, people who were so gung-ho and some who were just taking it all in. And knowing that just, it turns out that there were over 100,000 people in attendance in New York City's No King March. So just to have that level of, unity, folks coming together, organizing around some common themes or goals, right? Anti-Trump, save our democracy, protect marginalized communities, right? There were so many reasons for people to come out and support the No Kings March. And I have to say, it was just so inspiring to see that many people come out and support. And for those of you who couldn't make it, hey, not the end of the world. The fact that folks were able to come out and march, not everyone has the opportunity. Some people are working, people have other plans, and that's okay. For those of us who did march, we're the ones doing the work to protect our everyday life. So ideally, none of us would have to march because at that point, we wouldn't be having this struggle. But because we're not there yet, it's great to get involved in the political process, making sure you're making your voice heard, and even better yet, like you're being a part of something. You're building community. These are things that are just so valuable in today's world, especially when, this podcast, it's online, it's digital. As great as it is to connect with people on a massive scale, it is so incredibly valuable to also connect one-on-one with groups of people in person. And the No Kings protests around the country were able to do that. So to share about my experience, right? It was an overall great event. I enjoyed walking down all the way from 47th Street to 14th Street. Definitely got my steps in. It was really just so inspiring to see like the energy in the crowds, even people who were on the sidewalk, right? People who were like cheering us on, people who were clapping, people who even jumped into the march, just wanting to be a part of it. Again, it's that type of connection and that type of gravity, even that really built momentum throughout the event, showing like we're not just a group of people who are just spending our Saturday afternoon hanging out. Like, no, we wanted to come together to send a message, and that is powerful. So, to better explain my experience, for those of you on the podcast, take a listen because I like to share with you a few clips from my experience at the march. And for those watching on YouTube, let's check it out. It is a beautiful day here right in New York City. We are coming across 7th Avenue and 20th Street in the middle of the No Kings March. Now, record-breaking turnout is expected for today. Now, the last one in June of 2025, there was up to 5 million, maybe even over 5 million protesters in attendance nationwide. We're seeing right here in New York City, there are definitely thousands, if not tens of thousands, participating today. And you can tell by all of the great signs, all the excitement, all the cheers. A lot is happening right now. So with that said, make sure to stay tuned for more footage and more great moments right here on Not Suitable for Democracy. And as I marched down Broadway to 7th Avenue, like it was really great to see so many different types of people just being kind to one another, being respectful, even like kind of getting along, like chanting, like just cracking jokes, right? Like some of those protest signs, I have to say, were pretty funny. And like just the wittiness and the creativity of it all, that just means so much because that is something AI can never recreate, right? So just that magic of that human intellect and just human spark, like that is just so meaningful and powerful. So just seeing all the great protest signs, I took a lot of photos and videos, so you can check more of that out on my TikTok and my Instagram. Again, you can follow at NSFD_pod. These protest signs really captured this moment of American history. So again, highly recommend you check out the protest signs because you'll definitely enjoy them. And I have to say, it was just such a remarkable experience at the No Kings March, where hundreds of thousands of people in New York City flowing down the streets, all with that same energy and attitude, where we all know what's going on with this current administration. And we are all very much aware of the abuses of power and how we must protect our rights and save our democracy. This is kind of like those times you read in the history books. Like we are living through that, where 100 years from now, people are going to look back and be like, wow, they had to really fight back. They had to really stand up for what's going on. And that guy really did that. So the fact that we can live through it and live to tell the tale, I was, being able to attend the No Kings March, I was very proud. I was just so proud I was able to make my voice heard. I was able to experience this with, hundreds of thousands of other people. And it just really gave me that sense of hope that we can come out of this stronger, that we will survive this, that we will come out the other end as a stronger democracy. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. And listen, we might not even make that happen by 2028. But these are the moments that are going to push us to get closer than ever before. So sooner or later, I know that we will overcome this because the MAGA movement and Trump and those Republicans, those conservatives, They are not the majority. They are not the majority of this country, and the people who came out in the streets, that is the majority of the country. Now, I know 7 million isn't the majority, but the fact that 7 million people made their voices heard, that is powerful. So to further explain how great and successful the No Kings March was, I'd love to share with you 6 individuals who were so gracious and kind to take time out of their day to let me ask them a few questions about their experience, about protest signs, and what they're going to do next after this protest. Here we have Donna. She was so nice, who just started chatting with me at the end of the march. We're just talking about how great it was. And, I asked her if she wanted to be on the podcast, and she said yes. So she is a union member with the UFT, United Federation of Teachers. They are the teachers union right here in New York City. Make sure to support your local unions and your teachers union, right? So much great work going on with that. And let's hear what Donna had to say. We are here live in New York City at the corner of 14th Street and 7th Avenue at the end of the No Kings March. Here I have Donna, who just marched in today's protest. Donna, what are your initial reactions after finishing the march?
I feel really good. I'm especially happy that the turnout was immense. I saw many unions represented, many individuals represented, and some fantastic signs that really show the widespread thoughts that what we're standing for, the rights we're standing for.
Lots of creativity and witty signs. Now, before I forget, what union are you representing today?
The UFT!
Support your local teachers, everyone. All right, so were there any signs or slogans that you saw that really inspired you?
I like the one that was the dude saying keep ice out of our streets and in our drinks.
That's a good one, right? Not only ice in our margaritas, am I right? So what are you going to do after this protest? We had tons of turnout, thousands of people. How are you going to take this mission on to the next step?
One thing I'm doing is I am posting pictures so people can see with their own eyes that it was a huge turnout. We don't want to trust that the media might pretend like it wasn't as big as it was. And I'm also going to vote for Mamdani for the next mayor of New York, for one.
That's right. Just so you know, we have an election here on November 4th. Early voting starts October 25th. And that's so great to hear about the slogans, because democracy is not suitable without you. Donna, thank you so much for your time today. And remember, vote for Zohran Mamdani for New York City mayor.
Thank you very much. Thanks for doing this.
When some people come to these protests, it might be their first time, they don't know what to expect, and they're really just there to take it all in. But other times, some attendees, they come with a purpose, right? They are there leaning on their values. They are there to send a message. So I want to introduce you to 2 of the attendees, Matthew and Amy. Matthew, who is also a member of the Democratic Socialist of America, so shout out to DSA, doing the good work, and one of the groups that is supporting Zohran Mamdani, who obviously is a Democratic Socialist. And then we also have Amy, who had so much heart and passion, and it really showed in her protest sign, in her answers. So I'd love for you to hear what Matthew and Amy had to say. Matthew, remind me, now what brought you to today's march?
What brought me to today's march? Well, everything that's going on right now, with the current administration, just so many civil liberties being violated, livelihoods being destroyed, and it's just a disgrace, we have to be out here.
That's right. Now, Amy, what brought you here today?
Well, Matthew kind of said a lot of, good points.
Yeah.
This is kind of a demonstration that democracy is on the line, and we should be out here, being peaceful and showing that this is our government, this is our country. It's not just, like they say, it's no kings. We took this country from a king. We're not going to let that happen again. And they also made such a big deal about this being such a, hate America rally, a hateful protest, and that's not true.
Does anyone here hate America?
Absolutely not.
We love America.
We do
That's
this because we love America. This country was founded on protest. It was founded on democracy and coming together and, to become a country. So, of course, we're not doing this because we hate it. We do it because we want to preserve it.
And because we care about every single American, because we all have rights and we all need them protected. So, Amy, I saw you have a pretty cool sign. Do you mind showing us the sign?
So, I got 2 sides to this.
Oh, 2 sides. One, and show us the other.
This one is, again, just kind of saying, protesting is an American right. So, we just want to remind people that it is American to protest. So, if they say otherwise, that's a lie. And then the back says they can try to break the system, but they can't break our community because community is everything. You know, if the government's not going to look out for us, we look out for each other. And I think that's something really important for people to remember and notice that, you know, you're not alone. We're always going to be here for each other.
I have to say, I absolutely love the rainbow and community. Someone who is openly gay here, so it really does mean a lot when we have allyship and we have folks who are looking, again, to take care of other Americans, protect our rights, because at the end of the day, we are all in this together. So, Matthew, I wanted to get your thoughts really quickly. Did you see any signs that inspired you today?
What inspired me more so is all of the Luffy flags, One Piece, you know, just all the fandoms, all the weirdness and everything just coming together behind, you know, a movement against fascism. It's just great.
And that's what makes America so beautiful, right? We are unique, we are diverse, and the fact that we are all in this together. Listen, random people coming together. Matthew and Amy, any last words for what you're going to do next to take democracy to the next level?
Well, if you're from New York, make sure you vote. If you're from New Jersey, make sure you vote. If you're from Virginia, make sure you vote. And vote no matter what, because they vote, so we got it also.
So if you're living in New York City, please vote for Zoran Mamdani if you can. He's going to look to make the city greater than it is under Eric Adams right now. And also, I'm a part of the DSA, so we would very much appreciate your vote and any support you can give to Zoran Mamdani.
Aligning on our next mayor of New York City, Zoran Mamdani. Now, you all know that I've been talking about Zoran Mamdani on this podcast and how he's been, you know, from the primary campaign now to the general. So, what are your thoughts on his campaign?
So far, it's going great. You know, there's a lot of volunteers out right now, you know, canvassing wherever they can because, you know, we have to ensure the possibility that Cuomo, who's allied with Trump, doesn't get into office because right now he's showing a lot of complicity and a lot of alliance with the fascist regime that we have in Washington, and that's completely unacceptable. So we have to get Zoran Mamdani in so then we can have a chance at fighting against fascism in New York City.
Absolutely. Now, did you catch the debate the other night?
Ooh, I was watching it like earlier. I didn't get all of it yet, but from what I saw, you know, like Zoran is, you know, standing his ground, trying to make sure that that New Yorkers know that he is for them and not for ulterior interests in much the way that Cuomo is towards a lot of the donors that are backing Trump right now. So that is something that has to be understood.
Absolutely. Now, I'll just end it with this. The fact that we have people here from all sides of the political spectrum, but at the end of the day, we have two socialists marching at the No Kings March because we know the power of not only democracy, freedom of speech, but this is our right to push our country forward, and that is in a socialist direction, which our next mayor of New York City, remember to vote November 4th, this is how we do it.
If you can do early voting, right? Because, you know, November 4th is pretty much the official day, but early voting starts probably at the end of next week.
It starts on October 25th. Now, last but not least, I have 3 attendees who are also activists. And these activists were marching on behalf of ACT UP. Now, for those of you who don't know, ACT UP is an iconic, legendary, really impressionable, amazing organization that has been doing the work fighting the AIDS crisis since the 1980s. Now, it's grassroots, and they've been really expanding and doing incredible work ever since. And you may remember some of their protest strategies and some of their sit-ins and some of their direct actions that really move the needle with the United States government. So the fact that that legacy lives on with these activists who are also now marching in the No Kings protest, right? It says a lot that we must continue to do the work and we must continue to build on the work from generations before us in order to protect our rights because, as we know, they are very much under attack. So I'd love for you to hear what Kate, Brandon, and Ryan had to share about their experience and the work they're doing with ACT UP. We are live here in New York City, right at the corner of 14th Street and 7th Avenue at the end of the No Kings protest march. And as you can see, we're at the very end, but I did come across 3 activists who participated in the protest. So remind me of your names?
I'm Kate.
Brandon.
And Ryan.
Nice to meet y'all. And this is Not Suitable for Democracy. So, Kate, what was your take on today's protest?
I thought it was great. So many people out, lots of great energy, lots of really positive energy. Yeah, the vibes were awesome today.
We like to hear good vibes. That's great. And what was your take?
It was great to be out with over 100,000 people here in New York. People were chanting and yelling, and people are mad too, for sure. And they want to see Trump gone. We're all unified in that.
That's absolutely right. That's why we're all here in the streets. Now, remind me your name again? Right, Ryan. Actually, I see you have a sign there. Can you show us your sign? Yeah. And then tell us a little about your sign. That's excellent sign. Remind me, what does it say now?
It says, let them eat Teslas.
Hey, that's exactly the kind of energy we need. So for all of y'all, were there any signs or slogans that kind of inspired you throughout the march?
There was one very clever sign that was modeled after like a New York parking sign that said "No king permitted ever" or something. It was like "No parking ever permitted." So.
That is very clever, and that's exactly the kind of energy and attitude we need. So since who's been in office, what has your take been? How have you been handling with the entire administration, all the things going on? Like, how have you been coping with all this?
Well, I mean, being a part of ACT UP has been very helpful because I think it's just important to get out and do things. Like, obviously, we can't fix everything all at once, but we can chip away at stuff. And just like being part of community, I think is very, very important to staying sane.
Absolutely. Being a part of community is so important. I noticed you because you have the pink triangle. Do you mind sharing a little bit about what the significance behind silence equals death and that triangle means?
Yes, so let's see. Kate and I are relatively, within this last year, new to ACT UP, but Brandon's been around the block. He's been holding ACT UP down, but ACT UP started in 1987. And we were here today with ACT UP and also part of the healthcare contingent, just because of the attacks that are going on to healthcare in this moment in time. So yes, ACT UP is, I'm like nervous, is the AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power. So currently Trump with RFK, there's a $2 billion proposal cut at the NIH and the CDC to HIV funding to programs regarding HIV. And at this moment in time, without that $2 billion funding cut, there are 32,000 new HIV infections recorded every year in the States. So without that $2 billion, I mean, it is the AIDS crisis was on track to end by 2030, but with MAGA, that's not our reality anymore. So that's a part of why we were here today with the healthcare contingent.
That's excellent. Thank you all so much for your important work, Ryan. That is so interesting to hear, but the fact that we are still needing to fight that good fight all these years later with generation upon generation, and this leadership must continue. This is how we keep going. And with the administration, whatever you want to call it, going on, we must push back at every turn so they do not take advantage of us. And we know that our rights must be protected as long as we keep fighting. Any last words about your experience today, or for those watching at home or listening?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just terrified personally for what this administration is doing is going to potentially do to my healthcare, and also the healthcare of millions of Americans. And we have to do everything we can to resist and to fight these healthcare cuts that are coming down in the next couple of months.
Thank you so much. That's very important. What about you?
I mean, yeah. I don't have much to say. Ditto, yeah.
Will you be voting? Will you be voting in the upcoming election?
Oh, of course.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. We need to participate in our democracy. What about you, Ryan?
Yes, voting. And then I think just what today, people keep talking about the 3.5% rule. We need 3.5% of the population to show up. This was the second No Kings in New York. I believe they're saying that the number was bigger, and so we need to keep with that momentum because we need to be ungovernable to move this fascist regime out of the White House.
You got that right. And thank you all so much for joining today, and the fact that we are in this together, 4 random people on the street coming together under our democracy. Let's keep fighting, making it loud and proud. And last but not least, democracy is not suitable without you. And that was just wonderful. Oh my goodness. I just want to say thank you so much to Amy, Matthew, Donna, Kate, Brandon, and Ryan. Each of you did such a great job, and I know it was just like spur of the moment on the street at the end of a protest while all of our energy was like focused on the march. But you know what? Your message means so much to me and everyone listening, and this podcast is able to send that message to so many people who need to hear the important work and the passion and the purpose each of you have. Thanks again so much for your time. You'll always be a friend of the show. And remember, we must keep participating in our political process, so I can't wait for each of you and for everyone tuning in to take your next step in our democracy. Okay, so real talk. Many of you have probably heard the discussions that have been happening online in like the leftist spaces, progressives, liberals, what have you. And it's all about the No Kings March. So for those of you who have heard about it, right, we know that the No Kings March was originally supposed to be a protest, right? Now, technically, is it a protest where we are exercising a First Amendment right? Yes, we are protesting the government. We are exercising our free speech. So at a very basic level, it is a protest. However, a lot of the critiques that folks who like to claim themselves as leftists or, even just like hard discipline, like hard left folks, they are really coming pretty hard actually about, the efficacy of the No Kings protest. Now, I've been trying to use the language of march more than protest, just because, the action was to actually march down the street. But also, it is more considered a rally than a protest, since a rally is kind of like organizing around something, whereas the protest does organize around something, but then there's usually like a set of demands. It's usually like the act of public pressure that could then move the needle across a series of issues or actions from the government to actually follow through. Remember, that's what holding someone accountable in government is all about, which we talk about in episode 21. But anyway, point being is, with the No Kings protest, right? A lot of the critique has been like, it's not really a protest. It's really just an excuse for people to make them feel good, right? There's no clear demands, so what can it really accomplish? And I have to say, like, I do genuinely understand the concern, right? If we are going to be asking people to take an action, to do something, right? With the hope that at least 75 million people who voted for Harris and those who didn't support the current administration back in November 2024, like, most of us want to see some sort of change happen, right? Like, we don't like what's going on. Some sort of change needs to happen. So what does that look like? Is it like regime change? Is it, having Trump resign? Is it having the Republicans resign? Is it, funding a lot of the cuts that were made in the big, beautiful bill, right? Like, what is the action that is really going to change the trajectory of what's happening with the current administration? And as much as I value, the clarity, right? Like, it is good to point out, like, there needs to be demands, there needs to be a level of action here, there needs to be some level of organizing to take it next level in order to make real change. And that's fine. Like, it would be great to have that change. But what I am so disappointed in, right? I'm actually disappointed at those critiques, because when you notice the people and the individuals who that's coming from, guys, like, the points you're making, the aggressiveness, the condescending tone, like, it is not coming from a good place. We hear it in your voice. We see it in the text when it's online. Like, it's so disappointing, because that's not how we organize. We should not shame people into action for the greater good. We need to be organizing, building relationships, ideally persuading them. And yes, folks can argue that shame is a form of persuasion, but I would like to argue that it's not the most effective, right? Like, if we really want 7 million people to come on board and, like, do that next action, whether it's a general strike, whether it is a protest or a boycott, we will be more effective at that if we have a lower barrier of entry and we actually build relationships with people, and telling them they're stupid, telling them that their work doesn't matter, telling them they don't get it, telling them they're not smart. This is not the language. This is not the communication skills. This is not the organizing power that we need to be exerting right now. Like, that is not the best way forward. And I'm disappointed, because it's just people who I know their intent is that they want a better future. I do too, but I'm just it's disheartening at times, right? When it's like I get that we want the same thing. We want a better future. But the way we get there, like I wouldn't necessarily push people in an aggressive fashion that could deter them from future opportunities like the No Kings March, right? I think most of us have probably learned, hopefully, that you're going to attract more people with honey than you are with vinegar. And a lot of the social media content in like the videos and like the, witty text or tweets, like they come off as sarcastic. They come across as like mean spirited. They come across as just, I know better than you, so listen to what I have to say. Like that's just it's not being a good person. It's not. It's really not. And when the cause may be noble, that doesn't give us an excuse to act poorly to other people, because that defeats the purpose of making this cause noble. If we don't like the behavior we're seeing from Trump or Republicans, including the racism, homophobia, sexism in their group chats, right? Then we should not be trying to go down that same path and govern through anger and control through fear. We should be trying our best to inspire, motivate, encourage. This is how we create a path forward that not only allows more people to join, but that's how we build power. If you really think about it, right? Those 7 million people, part of the success of the 7 million people was that in New York City, there was 100,000, right? The NYPD, they reported that there were 0 arrests that day related to the protest. And that's amazing. The fact that everyone kept it safe, they kept it peaceful, and they were on their best behavior because they knew, right? We don't want to put anyone in danger when there's already people in danger from the current administration. So there's no reason to elevate that risk. Now, granted, some people think, oh, well, we have to put our bodies on the line and we have to do this, we have to do that. And like, this was not the place to do that. This was not the time or the place. No King's March was never meant to be violent. It was meant to be peaceful because the point was to show contrast to the narrative that Trump and Republicans are trying to weave throughout the media, calling the No Kings attendees terrorists, that we hate America. Couldn't be further from the truth. So the fact that people there were not only so kind and peaceful to one another, but taking some inspiration from Portland, right? And what I mean by that is that there were quite a few people who actually dressed up in costumes, or even it's called Operation Inflation, where people came in those like inflatable costumes with like the different characters and animals, and like, oh my gosh, it was hilarious. It was so cool to see so many adults there in like these really like jocular, like goofy costumes and like these characters, because it really disarms Trump's argument that like, oh, these people are terrorists, they're so evil. And it's like they're hopping around in these jocular costumes. Like, no, man, like these people are funny. They have a sense of humor, and they are just trying to spread some kindness and love. Like, what is wrong with that? Nothing's wrong with that, right? So it really makes Trump look a little foolish, especially when all the images you see on the media or on social media even are just filled with like these fun moments, like people dressed up, and like it just creates some joy, right? And we need more of that in this world. We need some joy, especially when everything feels like doom and gloom. And, some people are going through it. There are some really serious issues going on between, deportation and, the trans community really having their rights taken away and being dehumanized. And even, with the black community, with like DEI removal, and just really right now with the Voting Rights Act, they're trying to gut Section 2, which would make it legally permissible to silence the voices of so many Black Americans, specifically in the South. And, we need to be doing everything we can to fight for every marginalized community. And the fact that, the costumes and the inflatable characters, it really just proves the movement is not about hatred. Our movement is about, kindness and respect and empathy with our fellow Americans. Whereas the Trump MAGA movement cannot say that. We know it. There's too much evidence to the contrary in how they organize, what they rally behind. It doesn't come from a place of love or peace. It doesn't. But on the other side, No King's March, we can say that. And that is why I'm so proud to have participated, because we weren't there to start trouble, maybe good trouble, but we were there ultimately to send a message of peace. And granted, I say peace in terms of just, nonviolence. Let's put it that way. And I guess at the end of the day, it would be really nice and be really encouraging to see more people who may have been critical of the No Kings event to really think about, is their way, or what they're saying, is that the best way to build power? Is that the best way to get someone off their couch? Like, I'm literally talking on this podcast on the couch, right? But I still got out to the streets to send a message. So how can we get more people to do that? Yelling at them and telling them they're stupid and they don't know what they're doing is not it. I'm sorry, but that is just not it. I would encourage anyone who has a critique of the No Kings rally, march, protest, whatever you want to call it. I would encourage every single one of them to think, how can you take this to the next level? How can you organize 7 million or more people to rally around a better action, or something that is nonviolent but also is effective, right? And how are you going to do that while also being kind and empathetic and encouraging with motivation and inspire people? Again, telling them that this ain't it, or this is bad, or you're wasting your time, and, it just makes people feel good. I don't see how that's helpful. It's great to critique from a place of concern, but when it comes from a place of holier than thou, or I'm better than you, or shame on you for thinking this is good because the bare minimum's not enough, no. Mm-mm. We're not going to do that on this podcast, and I would really encourage anyone else who has a platform to do the same. But I know everyone out there doesn't feel the same way, right? The fact that I could march along 100,000 people in New York City, 7 million people nationwide, that tells me that I'm not alone in this. If you're tuning in and you feel the same way, you're not alone in this. We're not alone in this. We have each other, and we have so many fellow Americans who love this country so much that we want the best for everyone. So if that means having the patience, the empathy to encourage and motivate more people to join us for the next time, I highly recommend you do what you need to do to make sure you bring a friend, you bring a family member, a neighbor, right? Post it on your social media. Talk about it in your next community club, right? Whatever you're doing to bring more people into the fold, that is how we organize, and that is suitable for democracy. And another point I'd love to share is how every event has its purpose building toward the next moment. And what I mean by that is, while the critique of the No Kings event wasn't enough, it wasn't good enough to some, fine. They can be negative all they want. But here's the thing. What I realize, and I hope you realize, is that this was the lily pad to jump to the next big event. It's going to come in a sequence, right? And if you've noticed, for those watching on YouTube and for those listening on the podcast, right, I am currently wearing my Bernie t-shirt that features that iconic moment in 2019, in October of 2019, when Bernie came to Queensbridge, Long Island City, Queens, right here in New York City. For those who might not remember, there were over 26,000 people in attendance. I was one of them. I was so fortunate that I was able to stand for hours. And I say this at a time when I was just finishing up, I was still healing, actually, from tearing my Achilles tendon in the summer of 2019. So I was in my orthopedic boot that day. I remember being able to like stand on my feet. And I was like, I don't care if this means I have to get surgery again. I am committed to being able to stand and just watch and hear Bernie Sanders speak about a hopeful future. That meant so much to me. Like the fact that I was in pain most of the time, just standing on my feet when my Achilles tendon was trying to heal, I did not care because the message meant more to me. And I hope more people feel that way, that we are committing ourselves to do whatever we can to really make our future better for everyone. And in that moment, right, 26,000 people were in attendance. That was before we knew how the rest of the events would transpire. Although that was for Bernie's presidential campaign in the Democratic primary, he went on to break records with fundraising, to break records with the number of volunteers, really proving that in American democracy, we can have someone run for president using a grassroots model and not take a penny from any super PACs or corporate lobbyists. Like, that changed the game. Like, even though he did not go on to become president, he still fundamentally transformed American politics to how we know it today. And that is something that they will never be able to take away from him or us. For those of us who supported Bernie, or those of us who even just support taking money out of politics, right? The whole reason I started this podcast was to send a message: we must take money out of politics. So all these actions lead up to that, right? So in 2018, AOC, she ran and ushered in a new era of younger leadership. 2019, Bernie ran for the president. And although he had to suspend his campaign in April of 2020, everything since then has been building up to have more progressives come into the political fold, more people rise up for leadership, right? We were able to win back the White House in 2020. We know Biden wasn't the most progressive president, but he did build a coalition that included people from the left in order to get Trump out of power. And now we're at a time where more than ever, we need everyone to come along, unify, build with us, organize with us. Because if we are serious about having that hopeful future, we need to put differences aside. The petty squabbles, the holier-than-thou attitude, the purity politics, that is not how we're going to win, and that is not how we're going to save our country. We need to understand that what the work that was being done, right? After AOC, after Bernie, and then now Zohran Mamdani. He is on track to become the next mayor of New York City. Democratic Socialist, progressive, Muslim, immigrant. These are things that normally would be unheard of, let alone on a local race like, small like city council. But now this is going to be the mayor of the largest city, in the wealthiest city, in the wealthiest nation in the history of the world. That is groundbreaking. That is something that we are living through in such a historic moment in time. And to be a part of that, right? To be part of this movement. Zohran is doing so well. And I bring this up with No Kings because, again, the action from No Kings on Saturday, October 18th was not the be-all, end-all of these events. It is only the beginning. So we must take it upon ourselves to keep building to the next big action, right? Whether it is a general strike or a boycott, or it's another No Kings event, right? Maybe 7 million, let's get to 10 million. Whatever we need to do to keep building and bringing people into the fold, that is the solution. That is suitable for democracy. That is how we get people to be a part of something. That is how we make people feel like they're a part of something, so then they're more open to joining for next time. They tell their friends, they tell their neighbors, then more people join. And we have to keep that energy up. And I would really hope that the people who are critical of the No Kings March, keep that in mind. We're going to build power together, so really consider how you're messaging, how you're communicating with people, because there are more effective ways of doing it. And I would really hope that we learn from this, We come together and we can then build an even stronger movement that lasts far beyond this past Saturday. And that's our show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know that was a long one, but I really appreciate you listening and learning and hopefully looking to take the next step in our democracy. So if you like what you heard and want to learn more, then make sure to subscribe to Not Suitable for Democracy. And you can tune in every week on Tuesdays when you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Don't forget to follow along on both Instagram and TikTok. I use the same handle for both, so make sure to follow along at NSFD_pod. Thanks again so much for watching. Don't forget to get involved in the political process, vote in the general election, and remember, democracy is not suitable without you.